Hey, what's up, homies? Welcome to the English version of the Brazil World Theater episode. Yes, this is just going to be audio. I am sorry about that. But anyways, it's World Theater. We try to watch one country from each movie around the world. Fuck. I'm not re-recording that. Today we are traveling all the way to Brazil. That's why the first video was in Portuguese and this one isn't. But yeah. The country with the most World Cups, chicken production, and Bolsonaro. So what more could they possibly need? Established in 1822 with more than 200 million inhabitants and its capital in Brasilia, Brazil is the biggest country that we've ever covered so far, and it's actually the longest episode of World Theater. But yeah, it's the biggest in both population and land size, with more than 8.5 million square kilometers. For those of you who use the imperial unit, that's a lot of football fields. Brazil has one of the biggest film industries in Latin America, so it was very hard to narrow it down to just one movie. But I think I found the best one. Today's movie is Rio 2011, eh? I'm just kidding. Today's movie is The Way He Looks, directed and written by Daniel Ribeiro. I know most people would have wanted City of God or Central Station, but I wanted to pick something a bit less known. Obviously, this video has spoilers, so if you want to check out this movie, go ahead. The Way He Looks, 2014. Leonardo is a blind teenager living in Sao Paulo. He always hangs out with his friend Giovanna. Leo wants a bit more independence in his life. He wants to study abroad in the United States. He even finds an agency that works with blind kids. I'm telling you this because it comes up at the beginning of the movie and is kind of referenced here and there, but it never really influences the plot of the movie anyways, so. But everything changes when a new kid arrives at the school, Gabriel. Leonardo and Gabriel become really close friends, which makes Giovanna a bit jealous as she begins to feel left out. Leo and Gabriel go to the movies. To lunch, Gabriel introduces Leo to Belle and Sebastian's music. They go to watch a lunar eclipse, actually. Leonardo begins to fall in love with Gabriel. The movie has a pretty weird way of telling the audience, because it's pretty obvious from the start. Maybe the way I'm telling it in this recap doesn't make it super obvious, but just trust me, bro. Trust me. I mentioned this because it has a really weird scene where Gabriel forgot his hoodie at Leo's house. And for some reason, Leo thinks it's okay to put it on and bust a nut. Okay, alright. I know it sounds weird. Maybe some of you have done that. No judgment. Okay, maybe a bit of judgment. It just feels weird that the producers just had to film that scene. It was extremely necessary to the plot, guys. It's a recurring thing in this movie. They just keep finding ways of getting these two kids naked. Anyways, Gabriel begins to become a part of the class and gets friendly with other classmates, especially Karina. This makes Leo a bit jealous. I know it sounds pretty irrelevant, but trust me, this will be important because then they go to Karina's party where everything goes wrong. At the party, there's this kid who always picks on Leonardo. I forgot to mention him at the beginning. It's just that he's only irrelevant up until this point. And he's at the party. So when Gabriel is helping Giovanna in the bathroom because she's really drunk, a game of spin the bottle breaks out and Leonardo plays along. The bully character, he's so uninteresting I can't even remember his name, tells Leo he's about to kiss the hottest girl in class. In reality, he's being set up to kiss a dog. Fuck, kids are mean. Lucky for Leo, it's at that moment when Giovanna realizes what's going on and rescues him. Leo gets angry and yells at Giovanna for some reason, but she doesn't tell him what generic bully guy was doing. Giovanna runs away angry anyways. Next in line comes Gabriel to talk to Leo. Again, they don't tell him about the dog. Instead, Gabriel kisses him and drives away in his bike. Leo, Giovanna, and Gabriel stop hanging out together. They still all go on the class camping trip where they kind of get together again. At the beginning of the trip, Leo mainly hangs out with Gabriel. They talk a bit about the party. Gabriel reveals he was so drunk he couldn't remember anything. Yeah, right. From there's another scene where Gabriel and Leo just have to get naked. It's like really necessary to the plot. They're just in the shower and Gabriel just peeps at his buddy. Okay. After that awkward scene in the bathroom, Leo hangs out with Giovanna and they get drunk. Dang it, I should have gone to high school in Brazil. It's after a couple of sips of vodka that Leo reveals to his best friend that he's gay, and she immediately runs away from him. The little homophobe, huh? Leonardo's left sitting on the ground. He then goes searching for Gabriel, who is skinny dipping with Karina, so Leo just jumps in with them. After that camping trip, Leo gets sick, becomes friends with Giovanna again, gets together with Gabrielle, and learns to ride a bike. The end. If that conclusion felt rushed for you, it's because it was rushed for me too. Blind and queer representation. Okay, let's talk about the movie. I think it's best to start talking about the thing I probably the least qualified to talk about. As you guys know, I'm a straight guy with no visual impairment, but I did read and watch Love, Simon. So it's okay, guys. I mean, the director of the movie, Daniel Ribeiro, already spoke on behalf of the blind community, so I got permission. Just kidding. No, I'm mainly focusing on what some writers and activists for these two communities have written. Full credit to these guys on these arguments I'm about to steal. They didn't specifically write about the way he looks, rather more so about the representation of queer and blind people in Hollywood, but I think it can be reapplied to this specific movie. Let's address the representation of blind people first. This movie already starts off with a wrong foot on representation of blindness, as it doesn't cast a blind actor to play the movie's lead. It's kind of ironic that this movie wanted to give representation to blind people by not including them. Anyways, in Alex Mann's piece, Dear Media, Your Portrayal of Blind People is Wrong, he explains that the two more harmful representations of blind people are when they're played as either the exceptional talent or the helpless but inspirational character to their non-visually impaired friends. Regarding the exceptional talent trope, Mann uses Daredevil as an example and writes, "The fact that this guy is a superhero sums it up. You cannot be as independent unless you have some kind of exceptional superpower." This really encourages the myth of blind people having super senses, which is false. We simply rely on them more, as we do not have vision. It gives people an inaccurate understanding of what it means to be visually impaired, and therefore it is the opposite of promoting awareness. In the same article, Mann doesn't really talk about the second common trope, but that one is very self-explanatory of why it's wrong. It takes away the agency of disabled people and makes them a secondary character in a story meant to represent them. But the way he looks doesn't really follow any of the tropes. Leonardo is just a normal teenager. He goes to parties, drinks, and is a music snob. Sure, he requires assistance, but it's never presented as something negative in the movie. The common trope of the movies about disabled people is the wanting to cure their disability, and at the end they learn to accept it, for example like in The Sound of Metal, but that's not the case here. Although Leonardo is bullied by a lot of his classmates due to his disability, I guess it's Ribeiro's way of addressing that there's a lot of discrimination against blind people to the best of his ability, as he is not visually impaired. We could say it's an average representation of a disabled character, because Ribeiro doesn't fall into the common tropes, but he still casted a non-disabled actor to play that role, and there isn't a lot of blind actors in major roles in Hollywood. Although this movie does take a step forward in talking about a queer character with a disability. I actually googled it because I couldn't think of another movie that did this. I came across an article by Petra Anders, and it referenced two movies, Morgan and The Way He Looks. Anders talks about how in these movies their disabilities don't present a challenge to their sexuality, because yeah, why should it? Although this article does fail to reference that these characters are played by able-bodied actors. The only other story I can think about a queer and disabled person is Netflix Special, which actually has a disabled actor as its lead role with Ryan O'Connell. I guess this is a good point to talk about the queer representation in the movie. In some interviews, Ribeiro talks about how it was very important to him, showing a non-sexualized representation of homosexuality and the different types of queer people that exist. Yeah, right, you totally did that, buddy. Okay, the sexualization thing is pretty apparent in the movie, when Leo and Gabrielle are in the shower or when Leo masturbates with his jacket. Two scenes that add nothing to the plot and only exists as fetishization. Fetishization. And no, I'm not calling it out because I'm an uncomfortable straight guy. I know I'm the last person that should be saying this, but the commodification of queer people as sexual object for us, the straights, TM, has become extremely normalized. For example, how lesbians are sometimes used to arouse straight men. Writer Cameron Price states that fetishization is not allyship. Contrary to popular belief, same-gender attracted people do not enjoy being the object of your fetishes. Gay men are not accessories. They are not pure entities. The fetishization and romanticization of same-gendered attraction is extremely damaging to our community. It dehumanizes us. Does this mean no more sex scenes in these movies? I don't think so. I mean, especially I don't think it means the end of it in teen movies. Sexual exploration is very common in real life teenhood. For example, a scene within this movie that shows you can talk about sex without sexualizing your teenage characters is the scene where Leo, Karina, and Gabriel go skinny dipping in the pool. It doesn't actually show you the guys swimming, it has them out of focus. Contrast that with the scenes with the hoodie and the one in the shower. The one with the hoodie, you can save it, I guess. Instead of doing this weird long shot, you could do a medium shot. If you wanted to show that Leo likes Gabrielle, the fact that he's falling asleep in his hoodie is pretty much enough. But yeah, I don't know how you would save the shower scene. Another common issue with queer representation, specifically the representation of gay men, where they're written for straight audiences, something that writer Victor Rocha calls the palatable gay. In our society, it's a type of gay man that is fit for the general audience, that can enter every American home and still be acceptable. It's nearly undeniable. The majority of famous gay men in the media are under the category of white twinks. We should fix this by being more open. There's more than one type of person in the gay community, and we need them to be seen in the media because everyone should have visibility and inclusion. Does the way he looks have this issue? Kind of. Because whilst Gabrielle fits Rocha the definition of the palatable gay, Leonardo doesn't, because sure, they are white cis guys. Ignoring the fact that Leonardo is blind would be rather ableist, even though he is played by a non-visually impaired actor, but also, it's important to clarify that all these writers aren't from Latin America. Rocha is Hispanic, but he's from the United States and mainly focuses on American media. For transparency's sake, I wanted to talk with two people from Brazil about queer and blind representation in that country, but they didn't respond to my invitation. That's why I'm basing everything on what I've read and watched online. Anyways, in Latin America, the way he looks is miles ahead of the queer representation commonly portrayed. Many other representations don't show them as the main characters, rather to be saved by their straight counterparts. The intersectionality is pretty much non-existent. The only other Latin American movie that doesn't follow this pattern I can think of is I Dream in Another Language, which features two indigenous men in southern Mexico. So is this representation appropriate? I don't know, maybe you should ask the people represented in the movie how they feel about it. I don't know. But seriously, I think there's definitely an attempt of making a different queer and disabled story, but it definitely requires some improvement. At the same time, look at who's writing it. But I am also not saying that if you're not part of a group, you can't talk about them or make a movie about them or a video. But I think the difference is that what you should do is include the people in your project, which is what definitely doesn't happen in the way he looks. There's literally no blind people in this movie. Anywhere. Thoughts on the movie. Anyways, it's time to talk about the general aspects of the movie, cinematography and all that crap. The thing I am somewhat more qualified to talk about. Nah, I don't think so. This movie is definitely a script movie. In the art department, there's nothing really super interesting. The cinematography is okay, and the editing is nothing out of the ordinary. On Letterboxd, I read a comment that said, one of them is blind, okay, but it's not that used in the scenario or in the cinematography. I don't agree with this at all. I feel like it's okay that they didn't use it. Maybe the filmmakers wanted blind audiences to also be able to enjoy this movie without being left out. But anyways, what about the script? An important thing to note is that this movie was originally a short film. It definitely suffers from being stretched out at many points. There's some forgettable plot points like the study abroad plot lines. There's a long ass scene where Leo's dad teaches him to shave. Leo's grandmother is in the movie. Now, I didn't mention it in the recap portion of this video because she doesn't really add to the plot, but she's there. I guess the bully and Karina can be categorized as filler. The bully is the catalyst of problems at the party. On the other hand, Karina helps to mislead the audience into thinking that Gabrielle isn't romantically interested in Leo. The movie also serves to better establish the relationship between these three characters. In the short film, Giovanna and Gabrielle actually barely have a relationship. Sure, the filler aspects of the movie can make it a bit dragged, but they also don't hurt. And the movie has Belle and Sebastian, so it's pretty superior in that way. Actually, I don't remember if the short film didn't have it, to be honest. Ranking. So I didn't talk about this in the main video, but I am no longer gonna do the ranking portions of these videos because it doesn't make sense. Like, these movies that I've reviewed are so different and there's almost no point in comparing them. So I'm just gonna stop doing that, but don't worry, the Letterboxd list will continue to be updated if you want to go back and watch watch a movie. So yeah, but I give it a 3 out of 5. Like, it's not bad, it's okay. Anyways, guys, thanks for watching, listening to this dubbed version of the Hoje eu quero voltar sozinho review. It was really fun trying to do a video in a different language that I am not an expert in. Tell me if you want me to do it with the other countries that speak Portuguese. I don't know. It's fun. It is a lot of work. This video has been taking me way more time than I expected. But anyways, follow me on all my social media, link in the description. Go watch my last video that I think was the video where I did that thing. I'm not going to play a clip because there's no point. Go watch my guy that didn't go to high school watch his High School Musical 2 video. Or you can check out the last episode of World Theater, which was actually Kyrgyzstan. So go ahead. Also, I have a new podcast that I started with my sister called the Non-Inspirational Podcast. You can check it out, link in the description as well. Also, my show Trash Talk, it's still available. Taking a short break with it. We will return in October. Hopefully this video is up before October. I mean, no, not October. We're returning in November. So I have time to make this video. Anyways, thanks. Bye.